Well, as you can see, we have the tractor hooked on to the corn planter. We've got a majority of the wiring done. We have to stack a couple of valves on top of that manifold for the compressor yet for the pneumatic downforce for the row cleaners. And we have to hook up the hydraulic downforce for each row. But that is going to involve a lot of hydraulic hoses, and before I run any hydraulic hoses, what I want to do now is I want to fold the planter and then put it back out into, and then fold it back out. I have routed all of these wires down the frame of the planter. I do need to tie them up yet, but before we go and tie them up, we want to let this fold and unfold at least one time here to make sure we have everything routed kind of the way it needs to be, so that you need a little excess in that fold area there. Some of the wires, the backbone harness is going to stay in the back portion, but we've got these wing harnesses that have to have some slack in them so that we can fold this up and then unfold it again. We did need some clarification here on a couple of things, and I'll show you in the directions that things were kind of misleading. I did have the guys from Casanova, one of them guys stopped in here yesterday for a brief moment, and between the two of us we put our heads together and we figured out that I had a wire harness flip-flopped. Now I should have some help helping me fold this up, some extra eyes, so once we get into folding it, we're just going to have to get in and out of the tractor a dozen times, and I'll just put it on time lapse or something. I'm gonna move it a couple feet, get out, move it a couple feet, so on and so forth. I should have Sarah here helping me, but she is on another job now, and we'll get into talking about that here a little later on. So we'll go over to the iPad here and we'll kind of show you what I got confused with here. Now, I had explained that this harness here, this 844 harness, it didn't have a part number on it, and that was one of the first harnesses that are in the directions here to put on this planter. So I said, well, I can go to harness, we're just going to use the last three numbers here. I don't need to get into a big, long, jogged out number. I grabbed harness 850, matched up the harness that I needed to hook up to the other end of it, figured out what harness that we needed here. We do get into a little bit of confusion here. We're on the right side of the planter, and it says to run harness labeled EPG left wing, whatever. We're going to leave that alone. So then we roll on through the directions here, and the next harness that we roll out is harness number 824. So I find harness number 824, and this is the harness that screwed us up here a little bit. I laid that all out, and what it had was a 10-foot Y in the harness. So it shows it up front here where it's hooking into the bulkhead, but they don't show it again until this next page here. We're in pink or purple here, and we're in pink, and there we are. They have screwed up the colors here, so we're actually laying out this 824 harness is the harness for the lights and for folding the planter. We'll get into that here in a second. So we get that laid out, and I've got this long Y left, and it's like 12 foot long, right about in here, and I kind of figured that they were going to lay it over the top of the hitch and hook into the other side of the planter, because we did have a brief mention here that something's hooking into the left wing. So we were screwing around with that, and then I laid out the harness on the left side, harness number 820. It's in blue. Both ends are the same. However, it's got center backbone on one end, tractor on the other, so I had that oriented in the right direction. So we go from this set of directions right down into this one. You've got a blue harness, and then there was this short adapter here, right here, which is right here. So they talk about something about using this in conjunction with the non-CCS planters. And I'm trying to plug that harness into the front of this one, and it's not working. And it's not working on the other end. And it's not working on these other harnesses either. So I didn't know if I maybe had the wrong pigtail harness and whatever. So one of the guys from CAS was in the area, and he stopped in, and we went back and forth, went back through my steps, and then we had come to a conclusion that this 824 harness here, I had it in backwards. And we'll walk over to the corn planter here and show you what I mean by backwards. So this harness has a split Y in it right here. I had this mounted the other way, thinking that this wire here was going to go over to the other side of the planter, and it actually swings up and it hooks into the switch box. So we kind of got that figured out, and that short little pigtail harness doesn't do anything. It doesn't go with this planter. I don't know if it's for a CCS planter that maybe is a split planter, you know, like a 1631 or something like that. I'm not sure. So that if that jumper harness, adapter harness wasn't in this kit, we would have figured out after we got the center harness in and everything else that we had this one in backwards. So that was a learning experience. I would like to have another planter just like this one and put a kit on it as well. The second time around here would go a lot quicker. We were able to put the in-furrow unit right back on this wing here. I do need to mount the motor yet, which we can remotely locate that in a spot here or there. I could put it on the back side. I've got a couple of options there. I do need to get the actual motor on there. So we're going to try folding the planter now, and I'm going to get in and out of the tractor probably 20 times. Actually, Andrew is right across the road here. Maybe I can get him. All right, so I got my nephew Davey over here and Andrew. They're both going to watch everything so I can fold this up. Therefore, I won't have to get in and out of the tractor 20 times. so we did have a couple of brackets that ended up hitting the cylinders. I've got these holders here on both sides ended up hitting this cylinder. So what we're going to do is we're going to take them off, and maybe, just maybe by chance, that would fit on the back side, but I'm pretty sure that that cylinder is going to be kicked out more than that. There is a support here for the hoses and whatnot, so we might have to do away with that altogether, or it might potentially mount on the other side. So we've got to get them off in there and try it again here. I lost my helpers, so they're working on other things so we can get this. Alright, so we have removed both brackets from the planter. They're sitting there bent up on the floor. And I just happened to look back at the directions, and this is the bracket here that got bent. It is mounted right above the inside mainframe tire, and that is in the wrong location. They do say in these directions that they have removed the inside tire. They have removed some things to show you a better illustration. Well, the cylinder is removed there, and if they had folded that up without the cylinder on there, it wouldn't hit it. So we're going to go ahead and do this again. Now again, I don't have any of the wiring tied up here because I want to make sure I have everything where it needs to be, and I've got a little bit too much wire on the wings here, but I got to make sure I have it tied so it doesn't get caught when it's folding, when it's unfolding. So we're gonna try this again. Well, we have some minor issues that need attending before we can unfold this, because I was not able to fold this up entirely. A couple of these U-bolts here, which they gave me the measurements for it, they are hitting in a couple of spots. They're hitting on various items here. There's one hitting on the clean out container that is U-bolted. That is something that, that's just where we put it so it would be out of the way. So we need to address the U-bolts. Now, in the directions, they had the U-bolt coming this way, and it looks like we're gonna have to cut the threads off. But I think we'd have more room if the U-bolt was on this other side here. So I've got to do some measurements, and maybe all we have to do is just move those U-bolts over around the other way. So I ended up marking the spots that need to be moved and addressed, but we're hitting right here on the frame. We are hitting down there on the frame, right there. And where else are we hitting? We're hitting right there. And I would dare say that we'd have enough room to push, to put these U-bolts the other way. So that's what we're going to have to do there. So we're going to have to neatly hold up our wires here and get them moved back out. So I'll show you in the directions where they have the orientation to these tie straps that are U-bolted down, and it's a good thing I didn't zip tie the wires to them, because I would be cutting all of those zip ties. So let's go ahead and readjust things here. It looks as though the tie bar that we had on here, it looks as though we can put it on this side, but we've got to make sure we have enough room back here when it is folded back. So we're going to have to readjust a few things here, and we'll join back up with you in a little while here. So here is the directions here. Bracket placement, we're on the left side draft tube, and they give you the measurement starting from the front of the tube back to each tie bar, tie strap if you will, and you can see that we've got the nuts on this outer side here, and then they want you to measure from the draft tube itself, the front of it, to the front of the actual strap, not the center. And it says that right here, measure to the front edge of each bracket, not the center. So it looks like we're going to have more than enough room to just flip these around and have the nuts on this side here. We need roughly 1.5 inches from the outer part of the tube to the end of the U-bolt. It's like 1 7/16 inches, and we've got nearly 1 3/4 inches, more or less. We've got a big 2 inches there. So we do lack a little bit. It's not quite closing up on this side. What do we got here? Yeah, we've got 1 inch and 11/16. We're not closing up on this side because one of them is hitting this plastic nylon guide here. It's actually hitting this one right here, and it's not allowing the corn planter to go into the main frame tight enough. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get that adjusted. Well, we're just leaving the shop here now, and I just pulled into the lagoon driveway, and we've got Nate and Nate. Lucan's there, Lily in the other one. Lucan's just pulled out. Lily's got to go ahead and back in and get loaded. The lagoon's down about 6 foot now, and they're only hauling a couple of miles away, so we'll go ahead and take a ride to the field here and see how they're doing. I've even got the drone up, the drone with me. We'll go ahead and throw that up in the air. Jared, he's hauling with the other tractor trailer. My nephew was hauling, but he had to help my brother with something, so he had to shut down for a brief moment. So we'll be to the field here in a minute, and we'll kind of see what that operation looks like. Today is Saturday. We ended up getting snow here Monday night into Tuesday, and as you can see, that's all gone here now. So I better get my seatbelt on or turn the camera off, because all you're going to hear is a seatbelt tone here. So we'll be to the field here in a minute. Andrew's actually spreading on the same farm with the Pro Push spreader. So we'll touch base with him as well, and we'll kind of get a idea of what everybody's doing here.
Takeoff. The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
Sarah has got the, she's empty. She's headed back to the frac tank. And I can hear Garrett coming up in behind me. He's going to be headed to the frac tank as well. We'll try to get up in the air to give you a visual of where he is coming from. It is sprinkling, but I don't think we're going to get that much rain here. I can hear him. There he is right there. So there isn't much to show you right here, right now. But the neighbor, he is spreading over on the other side of this hill here. So we'll see if we can fly over to where he's spreading. And we'll give you a visual of what things look like. On the other side of this hill here, it'll probably be pouring by the time I get the drone turned around, but you can hear the 9320 in the background, and I'll throw up my GoPro here while we're just looking at an empty field. And there's Garrett descending down the hill, and they're both, looks like they're both going to hit the frac tank here at about the same time. So I don't think I should screw around with trying to spy on the neighbor, but the neighbor is just on the other side of this hill here. And I know they were spreading manure as well. I think you can just about, yeah, you can just about see him coming up across the field. So I don't dare fly this drone too far because it is raining. So you can see him coming up across the field, and there's enough dust rolling in the field, and I can't tell if there's if he's getting a load of manure delivered to him or not here. It looks like there is tractor trailer waiting for him right now. They have a Diller tanker as well with a Kenworth T800 on that tanker, and then they're going across the field there now with their Hool tanker, and they're using a Case International articulator. I'm not sure what the model is, so we might as well, we're right on this other side. There is a pretty good sized hill in between us and them, and I better get flown back to the pickup here because it is raining now. So let's see, they're loading Sarah out of the frac tank right now, and Garrett is waiting on deck. It looks like Jared is operating the frac tank to speed things up. We're only a couple miles away from the farm, and these guys are traveling a pretty good distance with the tankers here and the tankers in the field, the spreaders, if you will. So looks like Sarah has pulled away from the frac tank, and now Garrett's going to pull in and get a load off of it as well. So why don't we I'm sorry, I'm using a Mavic Pro Platinum, and I have not adjusted the controls here, so they're a little on the fast side, and everything is a little too glitchy when I go to rotate the drone or move the camera. So I have to apologize because I don't have too smooth of an operation here. So the frac tank looks like that's got about a half a load on it, and the screen is getting all kinds of funky here because the camera must have some moisture on the lens. kind of hard to tell. I can't tell with how much is in the frac tank, but by the time when you guys are seeing this video, you might be able to have a better image. I'm looking through a little tiny screen here. So we're gonna go ahead and get back to the shop and get back to working on that corn planter. Sorry if I was all over the place here, but originally when I went to put this drone up in the air, I had to do a compass calibration and the whole freaking 9 yards, and I'm like, I don't have but maybe 10 minutes here to screw around, and I don't need to take 10 minutes to get this drone set up. Usually, looks like I'm gonna be able to catch this right through the window here. It'd be nice if I didn't have to get out, but come on. I gotta trick it, see? I gotta bring it down. There. So, there we go. Usually I use my Mavic Air 2, and that one takes right off. You pull it out of the storage bag, get it dialed in, and you can actually take right off with it within seconds. These damn Mavic Pros, they take too long to get off the ground. So another problem is I just turned the drone off before I shut the camera off, so I'm hoping that it ended up storing the file to the SD card, or I won't have any footage here of the actual drone flight. So that's another problem with the Mavic Pro. The Air 2, when you shut that off, if you accidentally forget to turn the camera off or stop with the recording, it doesn't matter because it will store the file. So what I'm gonna actually do, because I'm afraid that we don't have footage stored to the card here, I'll actually do a drive beside, or a drive around here, and then a drive beside of the spreading operations here. So this is where the frac tank really shines. As you can see, both tankers loaded, like with one right behind the other, and they didn't have to wait for a truck to get here, and the truck didn't have to wait for the spreader to get back to where the truck didn't have to wait for the spreader to get done spreading. Everybody kind of stays moving at their own pace here. So Sarah is just getting situated up at the other end of this field here. We'll go ahead and do a drive beside of her. We chopped this corn last year, and we had a cover crop put on this. Just spread wheat on it is all. That's what the green is that's growing here. So this is a pretty good side hill right here that she's working with. Running Green Star. She likes that. Watching her left side. The side hill can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. The tanker can actually slide a little bit. This injector here has Dietrich tips on it. This injector toolbar, Ortel supply built. It works a little better than the one that's on the other tanker. They've got the shanks staggered. They got two up front. The two in the middle are back a ways, and then the two on the other side. So it works. This one works a little better in the like where there's a lot of trash, the combine ground and what have you. So she is empty. She's gonna head back to the frac tank and get another load. These Noon tankers are real nice tankers. We've had real good luck with them. This tanker is just over a year old. We started with it last year. The tanker that we had before this one was a 8,000 gallon Jamesway tanker. And we had a lot of trouble with the axles on it. That was a 4-axle spreader. All the axles turned. This is just a tandem axle spreader. It's actually got a little more, or it either has a little more or the same amount of flotation that the Jamesway tanker had, just because the tires are a little bigger. My uncle has the same tanker, and it is a 9,000 gallon tanker. We probably should have got a 9,000 gallon tanker as well. We just figured a 8,500 would suit us well, because the semi-trailers they're only 8,000 gallon, but we really didn't take into account that we're really not loading direct anymore, and that we're loading off of the frac tank. So we'll go ahead and get back to the shop here. So Nate is unloading into the frac tank. Wave to Sarah's boyfriend. He's gonna ride. Well, the rain, I don't know, X is though the rain has stopped there, so. There goes Andrew. We might as well get a little video of Andrew spreading. So I thought I would just get a brief little clip of Andrew spreading as well. Mainly what he's spreading is the snow piles that we had pushed up into the bunk there. There's refusal feed mixed in with it and everything else, and he's just getting rid of it is all. So Garrett has pulled away and Jared is just pulling up. And there is not much left in the frac tank, a little bit. If we weren't using the frac tank, Jared would have to wait for Sarah to get offloaded, and she would, Garrett would have just pulled away. Jared's kind of pulled up on a little bit of an angle here, and that puts his pump downhill, and he can get a little emptier that way. I don't know, I think they're on borrowed time here. It's the rain is starting to pick up a little bit here, so well, we've got all of our U-bolts turned around. They do show in the directions that this goes the other way. We have about 1 5/8 inch gap here. So we're going to be borderline with whether or not these hit against this frame rail, against this main beam, but we can cut the threads of the bolt off. Either way, we had to move them here and there anyways, because we were hitting against the frame here in a couple of spots. So we've got just some small zip ties holding these wires in place so that we can fold this up. I want to see how everything works, and then I want to unfold it and make sure everything stays out of the way. We don't have anything tied because I don't want to tie anything up and then have to cut all of those large ties. So we are just kind of holding things up out of the way to get an idea of what we need to allow us for folding and unfolding. The brackets that they had figured to be on the other side of the beam, we moved on the opposite side here. It looks like that's going to work like that. We just have to make sure that we have enough room on this back side. It looks like we're going to be right about here with this one, and then the one on the other side, it looks like we might be getting a little too close to this main controller right here, but it looks like we're going to be close because we saddle. Gotta move some of these things out of the way here. We saddle in here, and there's a little bit of a gap, so this beam doesn't come quite tight to here anyways. So we'll go ahead and unfold it. We'll see how that does, and then, or fold it up, unfold it, see how things work, and then I can start tying wires together here. All right, we've got things folded up here. I took the cylinder stops out so that I could raise the wing wheels up, and I've got the 3-point hitch down so that we can kind of take a peek all together here as to how much room we have in here with these U-bolts. There's a lot of room here in between the main beam and the bolt itself. I thought I was going to have to cut these threads off, but we do not have to do that. So it would have been better in the directions if this was set up this way rather than the other way around. It doesn't really matter which way you put this. You've got a tie on each side. What we do need to see, we need to see if, I don't know if I got to climb up on there or what, but I thought there was a couple of these that maybe should be moved just a little bit. Let's see here. That one right there is hitting, so we need to move that one. It's hitting the main wheel assembly, so we need to move that one down. You can see the top of it is hitting right there. Oh, I'm kind of studying things as we go here. So this one's good. That one's good. And that's the last one for there. So we could actually move that one down. This one here is good. That one's got to move like we were saying. So I think we can move that one to the front. And then that one there up front a ways. I've got to mark them out. And then that one could go up front a little bit too. So I don't know where they get their measurements from, but obviously it's not for a 16 row. It could be a draft arm for a 12 row or maybe a 24. Well, we've just got the tractor unhooked from it. We've got it unfolded again. We're going to move this bracket down to here. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump over on this other side. We've got 2 brackets to move. I have 2 on this side. Yeah. 2 here. That we're going to go ahead and move down. I got to move that one to there. I'm going to move this one to here. There's an odd number of brackets here. They've got one extra one on this side. I don't know why. But the bracket that hit the cylinder, that works good, just the way that we've got that mounted. So what we can do now is we can tie all of these wires and whatever up just the way they are here. We've got a little extra wire here in this little joint here as it folds and unfolds. So we've got to make sure we leave somewhat of a loop there, and then we'll work our way down the wings on each side. We need to keep everything up out of this area here. We'll go over and take a peek at what Jared's doing here. He's working on getting the mud flat brackets here on this Mack. He's got all of his wheel parts here and whatever for his brakes and whatever. He's switching this over from Dayton wheels to I don't know if they call them Hub Pilot or Stud Pilot. Hub Pilot, right? Yeah. So he's got a pile of parts that he's going to be putting on it. He's got to get his 5th wheel back on there. And he's got his hitch all done here. He ended up moving the pintle hook down to a lower position because that was mounted too high. And he's just mounting taillight brackets, and well, they're mud flap and taillight brackets onto the side of the frame rail. He ended up having to put a new Camelback suspension springs in this sometime over the winter, so he's getting a few dollars piled into this old girl. So that is gonna do it for this video. We'll come back at you tomorrow with what we have for the rest of this planter. We've got to start, after I get everything tied up, we've got to hook up the hydraulic downforce. We've got a couple of valves to put on, so on and so forth. So that is going to do it for this video. I want to thank you for watching, and we will catch you at the next one.